Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro friends. Happy Monday or Tuesday if you're, depending on how you're listening to this, whether it's by watching live or on Instagram and Facebook, or if you're listening to it. Today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro is brought to you by FAFCoffees. If you are looking for any delicious Brazilian coffees, please go check out our friends at FAFCoffees. You can see their links in the show notes below. And also, before we get started today, I wanted to let you guys know that we have started to put the webinars, our previous webinars, up on our website so that you can buy them as a bundle. And so what you get with the bundle is you get the video, the live video presentation. You also get an audio version of the video presentation. Of the presentation. You get any maps that are associated with it. These are career maps that I have created with the input of other industry professionals that give you a detailed span of what you should be learning and the professional skills that you should be gathering over the space of 10 years in different sections of your career based on whether you're a puppy or in your mid-career years or in your pro years. And you'll also receive copies of the presentation in that bundle that you'll receive. If you head to mapitforward.org/webinars, the cafe owners one is up today. And it's really relevant at the moment given the controversy that's just started with regards to baristas at large. If you haven't seen what's going on with those guys, go check out their Instagram. I'm super excited. Hopefully we'll be talking with them on the podcast. There's been some interesting developments between baristas at large and Slate Coffee. Now, if you're a cafe owner and you want to avoid this shit happening in your workplace, this webinar is for you. The webinar is called Mapping a Successful Business and Career as a Cafe Owner. Go and get it. It's $99. You'll have as long as you need to digest this information, and I promise you it will go such a long way to helping you create a cohesive, well thought out career as a cafe owner and business where your employees feel valued and don't stage a walkout like what's happened with the guys at Slate Coffee. Okay. Now on to today's episode of the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting subject on the Daily Coffee Pro. Now this may seem very cheeky of me, but the question today is, what does the C in the CMarket stand for? Now why this is really interesting to me is because I asked a bunch of people who trade in the coffee industry on the CMarket. And when I asked them, hey, I know this sounds like a stupid question, but what does the C in CMarket stand for? Is it coffee or is it commodity or what is it? And not a single person could tell me. Not a single person knew the answer and could tell me where the origin of it was. And I asked around with some other people today and could not get anybody to tell me. And so we posted the question on Instagram today. And if you haven't checked out pretty much every single day, every weekday anyway, I pose a question to invite our industry to partake, either giving opinions or giving their perspective on particular issues that we talk about here on the Daily Coffee Pro. And I'll post that at the beginning of the day so that I can gather some perspectives and some information and talk about it here on the Daily Coffee Pro at the end of every day. And one person responded. Hundreds of people saw the post and the Instagram stories. And one person responded and they said the C stands for commodity. And when I asked them to justify it, crickets. So this is a much more relevant question than what any of us thought, because the fact of the matter is I can't find anybody that knows. And Carly Garner, she is our resident commodities trading expert because of the episode that she was on a couple of weeks ago teaching us about the CMarket. And she went digging and looking, and the best that Carly could find, and it doesn't really get much better than this, but I'm going to read. So this is off the ICE website, and ICE is the exchange that coffee is traded on. So as we talked about in the episode with Carly, coffee is traded through an exchange anonymously. There's a buyer and there's a seller, and they do that anonymously through the exchange. And we're going to talk later this week on the Daily Coffee Pro about what we've actually learnt about the CMarket so far. But going back to what the C in the CMarket means, I'm on the ICE website here, and the most we can get with regards to reference of what C stands for is the description on the ICE website. So it's called Coffee C Futures. The Coffee C contract is the world benchmark for Arabica coffee. The contract prices physical delivery of exchange grade green bean from one of 20 countries of origin in a licensed warehouse to one of several ports in the US and Europe with standard premiums/discounts for ports of growth. That's the description of the Coffee C futures. There is no description of what the C in Coffee C futures means or what the CMarket is. From what we could deduce from that, the C may mean commodity, it may mean something else, but the important thing here to note for all of us is we have been calling this the CMarket for a long time, and I still can't find anybody who can tell me what it means. Why this is important is we as an industry have such a low barrier to entry for everything that we do, except for the middle of the coffee supply chain. All right, the middle of the coffee supply chain, it requires lots and lots of money. It requires lots and lots of smarts, and it has a very high barrier to entry. And that is the part of it that involves exporting and importing coffee. All right. But the front end of the supply chain and the very back end of the supply chain, the barrier to entry is much lower. The front end is pretty much the lowest of all to get into the industry. And because of that, we tend to just do and say and act the way that came before us. I like to think that we're a part of a group of people or businesses or podcasts or whatever you want to call it that is really pushing for a shift in that trend. At Map It Forward, we define the coffee industry and the way that we're looking to further influence the change in tide between what was the coffee industry and what we hope to influence the coffee industry to be, which is professional. We think that people are divided into two different mindsets in the coffee industry. You're either somebody who's here to do just a job. You're not looking to have a career. And if you are, you have the mindset of coffee people. If you're here to forge a long-term career for as long as you're going to be in the coffee industry, we would consider you a coffee professional, and you have the mindset of a coffee professional. But what comes with being a coffee professional is really raising that bar of the barrier to entry so that you're requiring from yourself. There is no accreditation that requires this from you, but this is required from yourself. We believe that you should be looking at understanding in great detail your technical skills, your detailed understanding of the coffee supply chain, your understanding of the business at large, your understanding of roasted coffee, your understanding of brewing coffee and the machinery that's involved in those processes. Now, this isn't something that you should have to learn in the first year of your being in the industry, or even the first 2 or 3 or even 5 years of the industry, but it's a long-term journey of learning and understanding and professionalizing yourself in how you should treat yourself and the other people you work with and for, and in whose supply chain, all the stakeholders that are involved in the way that you move through the industry. Not knowing what the C in CMarket means is something that I feel really ashamed of. Or at least not having asked the question much earlier. I've been in the industry nearly 20 years, so I've been here 18 years. I should have known this by now. I should have at least asked the question within the last couple of years, at least. And I haven't, and I just assumed that it meant the coffee market or the coffee commodity market or something like that. And that's a behavior that I think we as an industry need to start pushing further in, because I would like for us to lift the game of how professional we are. If anyone finds a reference of where the C in CMarket was born and why it came about, please share it with us at imapitforward. Comment on the post. And the reason is because I'm not the only one who doesn't know this. There are a lot of people who are much smarter and have much more experience in engaging with the CMarket that don't know either. And a lot of them were pretty embarrassed to admit to me that they didn't know. And so, look, there's something to be said for asking what you think are the stupid questions. And I'm happy to do that because I just want to learn. I'm a massive advocate for ask as many questions, admit what you don't know, because the chances are most people that are out there don't know either. So this was a really great exercise in going out there and asking people what the C in CMarket stands for, because it's indicative of us as an industry where we're getting so much better at being professional, but we've still got a long way to go, especially when the fundamental thing that we use in a part of our supply chain, the CMarket, is something that we don't quite understand. So I hope that's helpful for you. It was a fun little thing for today to point out. And if you haven't seen the episodes that we've been bringing you about the CMarket, check out the episode with Carly Garner, which was fantastic. And also check out the very dense discussion with Felipecroce and with Stephen Bannister. And we have much more coming when it comes to trading coffee and importing and exporting coffee and the relationship with the CMarket and the fact that it's not a real thing. It's not actually something that trades real coffee. But we'll talk about that later this week on the Daily Coffee Pro. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.